Nearly 3 decades since he was fatally shot by the Colombian National Police, but Pablo Escobar has remained as prominent today as he was in his prime. Dubbed the richest criminal in the world, Escobar had an estimated net worth of $30 billion at the time of his death in 1993. That's $70 billion in 2022. But how exactly was Pablo Escobar able to maintain that power? In today's video on the Wanted Fugitive channel, we'll be talking about plata or plomo, silver or lead, the drug kingpin's modus operandi, and how it served him well. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe to our channel for content you wouldn't want to miss. How Pablo Escobar built his empire from the ground up. Cartels, much like monarchies, are often passed from one generation to the next. In other words, you're born into the cartel and then raised to one day become the leader of that cartel. We've seen this in the Juarez Cartel and the Sinaloa Cartel, two of the world's most well-known and currently operational drug cartels. However, the Medellin Cartel was founded by Pablo Escobar, the son of a farmer and a school teacher, in the mid-1970s. At the age of 16, Escobar left school without graduating, but would later return after his family's insistence with a renewed goal to study well, go to college, and eventually become a criminal defense lawyer, a politician, and subsequently the president. However, his hometown of Medellin was known for its gang-related activities, and the young Emilio Escobar soon found himself more and more drawn to the life of petty theft and delinquency. Escobar would then leave school for a second time. Drug kingpin's first venture into organized crime didn't necessarily begin in cocaine smuggling. In fact, Escobar was involved in organized crime long before the Medellin Cartel was founded, rumored to be around sometime in 1974. After leaving school for a second time, Escobar and his cousin Gustavo de Jesus Rivero began operating as local thugs, stealing tombstones, sandblasting their engravings, and then reselling them. Sooner rather than later, they began venturing into car theft. This was when Escobar was first noticed by local authorities. However, he would pay off local police forces and continue to steal cars for parts, from when he was 17 to his 20s. Eventually, that wasn't enough, and Pablo Escobar's crime route took a more sinister turn. He began kidnapping officials, and, in some cases, in spite of receiving the ransom, he'd still kill the victims. Notably, killing Colombian businessman Diego Echeverria, despite receiving $50,000 from the Echeverria family. The Medellin Cartel is formed. As the founder and sole leader of the Medellin Cartel, Escobar was responsible for the world's largest network of illegal cocaine trade to North and South America. His involvement in smuggling drugs to the United States in particular was what gathered much of his money, and subsequently his power. After serving a brief stint in prison, Escobar decided that the life of kidnapping and car theft was too troublesome. By this time, however, the young Colombian had a well-established network of local thugs and was regarded as one of the most notorious criminals in his hometown. In prison, Escobar became acquainted with Fabio Restrepo, often regarded as Colombia's first drug dealer. Restrepo had established a cocaine smuggling network from South America to Miami, Florida in the United States, but his operations were on a smaller scale. For context, Restrepo would smuggle no more than 20 kilograms of cocaine to the United States every few months. As we'll come to know, the Medellin Cartel smuggled over 7 to 8 tons of cocaine into the United States every month. Escobar had his eye out on Restrepo's network, and in spite of the fact that the Colombian drug dealer wanted to partner up with him anyway, Escobar had him killed to take over sole control of his channel into the United States. Thus, the Medellin Cartel was formed. Plata or plomo, silver or lead. In spite of the fact that Pablo Escobar was an established drug lord in Colombia, the public was divided in their opinion of him. This might be one of the many reasons why Escobar was as powerful as he was. He would often engage in philanthropic events by donating millions of dollars to fund local schools, hospitals, and even football teams. Some believe this was Escobar's methodological mind at work. By befriending the people of Colombia, Escobar made sure that he was untouchable, so long as he didn't leave the country. Others, however, believe that he had pure intentions when supporting the locals. Despite his means and motives, the drug kingpin was able to win favor amongst his people for distributing his illegal income in one way or another. However, his love for the locals probably reached as far as he wanted it to. The Medellin Cartel was responsible for the deaths of over 4,000 Colombians. The cartel would routinely kill anyone who obstructed their way, tried to undermine their authority, or aggravated them unknowingly. But they extended their ruthlessness into Parliament. That's right, since Escobar was well loved amongst the locals, they advocated to get him a seat in the country's constitution. However, lawmakers and judges would soon find a way to expose his criminal network, resulting in his being banished from parliament, but would also result in the assassination of said lawmakers and judges. Most notably, the Medellin Cartel is rumored to have been behind the bombing of Avianca Flight 203 to kill presidential hopeful Cesar Gaviria Trujillo. The cartel was also responsible for the assassination of Colombian politician Luis Galan. Galan was about to walk on stage and deliver his speech to a stadium filled with 10,000 people. He was killed the minute he took to the podium. His killer was never caught. Business lessons to learn from Pablo Escobar. While the Medellin Cartel did eventually fall, Escobar and many of his comrades were killed by 1993. The cartel managed to operate for 20 years and controlled 96% of the cocaine trade in the United States and 90% of the cocaine trade in the entire world. The drug kingpin perhaps got to the top with his well-established and cynical ideology of silver, bribes, or lead, death. However, many people went on to study the cartel to figure out their business models and what kept them at the top. Great product, better networking, and relentless perseverance, the triad to Pablo Escobar's success. After establishing the cartel, Escobar began to explore local markets and local products. Cocaine was refined from the cocoa plant and was initially sold in Colombia as cocoa paste that would then be refined into cocaine powder. In Colombia, the refining process was slow and cumbersome, but in America the process could be sped up with advanced technology. Escobar started off by making a deal with local farmers for them to produce and harvest the cocoa plant. He would then send the cocoa paste to the United States and have chemists refine it into cocaine. Later on, his mules in the United States would pick up the product and distribute it amongst the American locals. Many other cartels dipped their toes into the wonderful world of drug smuggling, but they weren't able to match Escobar's product. Yes, they might still be remembered as powerful cartels, but that was more so because of their ruthlessness and willingness to kill anyone in their way, and not necessarily their product. Notwithstanding Escobar's modus operandi, he would rarely resort to violence unless it was absolutely necessary. Instead, his focus was on his product. Interestingly so, Escobar made sure that no one in his cartel was ever caught slacking. He would kill members of his own organized network if they tried to cut corners and deliver a subpar product. Pablo Escobar, the world's best businessman? Pablo Escobar was, for better or for worse, a great businessman. His product was local, and he earned the locals' respect by engaging in philanthropic efforts. In spite of this, a collection of people formed, known as People Persecuted by Pablo Escobar, or PEPE. The collective included families of the 4,000 people who the Medellin Cartel had killed off in the past. PEPE would eventually work alongside the Colombian and the American authorities to bring down Pablo Escobar. However, this wasn't an overnight operation, and until they eventually cornered him on a rooftop and fatally shot him, Pablo Escobar enjoyed a position of prominence, power, riches, and adoration. His networking channel was unlike the world had ever seen. He would use biplanes that flew under the radar and were authorized to land on dirt roads. He flaunted his flamboyant personality, yet walked free because he knew he was untouchable. His cartel backed him up, his people backed him, and his money backed him. That's a wrap for this video. Do you believe Pablo Escobar was the richest man in the world? Who do you think compares to the Colombian drug lord? Let us know in the comments down below, and be sure to like and subscribe. Stay safe, and thanks for watching. See you next time.